Hey, what's up, guys? Wanted to talk about something today that it's sensitive. It's political. It's sensitive, but it's important. And I feel the need to speak on this because, look, I cover boxing for a living, and most of the fights that I cover, of course, are men's fights, but increasingly I cover women's boxing. And I'm a member of the Ring Ratings Committee. I fought to get women's ratings included in our ratings panel. I'm a voter for the International Boxing Hall of Fame, the women's modern category. And I work with women in the business every day. So this all correlates. I wanted to talk about this Lia Thomas situation. Of course, most of you guys, I'm sure, have heard all about this. The NCAA swimmer who was born a biological male, recently transitioned or began the transition. I don't think it's complete to female. This is a biological male who identifies as a woman, and the NCAA has decided that this person is qualified to compete against biological women. So this has caused a big uproar. It's touched a lot of people in a lot of different ways, and it's raised a lot of questions and a lot of hard truths that are difficult for some people to reconcile with. Thomas went from ranked, I believe, 462 in the country. It was somewhere in the 400s. Don't quote me off the top of my head. I think it was 462 to being number one instantly overnight in the nation. So 462 is a male, number one is a female swimming. Okay, in the entire country, NCAA. So that raises into concern. I think a lot of people look at that and they say, well, this kind of shows the gap between male athletes and female athletes. I mean, pretty quickly. I'm not going to go into that. But I want to talk about just give my feelings on whether this person should be allowed to compete, because this is something that should be allowed to compete against women. Because this is something that I see a lot of people talking about, and there's a lot of misinformation. And I am by no means an expert. I'm not a biologist. I know that's been a popular term going around on Twitter this week for different reasons. But I don't need to be a biologist or an expert in that field to understand that what's going on, in my opinion, is not right. And I feel the need to speak on this because I do have a small platform here, and I want to use that to just listen. If we get to a point in boxing where we have biological men competing against biological women, somebody is going to get hurt. Somebody's going to get killed. And we already have deaths in boxing every year. We've already had deaths this year. Already in 2022, we're only 3 months in, and we've had deaths in the sport this year. If we get to a point where we allow biological men to fight against biological women, a death will occur. Mark my words now. It might take 10 years to get there, but mark my words right now here on this video, okay? And that's not a controversial statement. It shouldn't be controversial. It shouldn't be surprising. It's just common sense. So let me talk about the rules and the exceptions when it comes to the gender dynamic, okay? And you guys pretty much already know this, but there's a lot of you out there who just need to hear it because your heels are so dug in with an ideology, with an idealist worldview, that you're skipping past the intellectual part of your brain, and you're just having this visceral emotional reaction to things. And you just need to take a step back and look at this logically. Men have more upper body strength. Men are stronger, top to bottom, but the biggest difference is in upper body strength. And there are certain sports where upper body strength is more important than others, okay? Obviously swimming, if we're talking about Lia Thomas, upper body strength is very important. And people think about the big prime mover muscles, the glamour muscles, right? When they think of musculature, but there's a lot of other factors there, okay? There's skeletal structure. There's a lot of connective tissue between the prime movers and the skeletal structure. There's smaller little muscles, twitchy muscles, tendons, and things like that, which it's just a biological fact that in men, we're built different. especially, again, upper body strength, explosiveness, fast twitch muscle fibers, things like that. So in a sport like swimming, of course, that's going to be very, very important. But as it relates to boxing, because again, that's the sport I cover, it's extremely important. Now, it's not, there are other fight sports where upper body strength maybe isn't quite as important. I think in MMA, it is more in the legs. You're wrestling, you're getting on the ground, you're straddling your opponent. And, leg strength is more important. Not that leg strength isn't important in boxing, but a lot of the explosiveness and power, I understand you generate power from your legs, but a lot of it's also in the core, the back muscles, through the shoulders, the arms, that twitchiness, that explosiveness that creates knockout power. It comes in the upper body, a lot of it. And not only that, but defending punches, right? And having the musculature and the strength, the bone structure to defend yourself against blows. A lot of that's all in the upper body. You're not blocking punches with your legs, right? So, and again, I'm going to keep going back and forth between swimming and boxing here. I know we're talking about Lia Thomas, but again, I'm talking about this subject because I see a very slippery slope here where this could affect my world, okay, in the sport that I cover. So let me state officially for the record right now, if a biological woman wants to transition as a man and compete against the men in boxing, that's their choice. And I would advise them to not do that, but I don't see a biological advantage there that's going to endanger their opponents. It's going to endanger them, but it's not going to endanger their opponents. However, in reverse, if a biological male wants to transition to female and compete in boxing against other females, biological females, I would be 110% against that. I would vote against that to my dying day. And I pretty much see it the same way in all sports. I just don't see, now certain sports, maybe it's not that big of a deal. You're talking volleyball, tennis, that's fine. You're still going to see that biological male crush the biological female opposition, but you're not taking somebody's safety into play, okay? But when it comes to something like the NCAA, Title IX, there are scholarships on the line, all this kind of stuff, I don't think biological men should ever be competing against biological women. There is an advantage there that, and some of you out there will say, well, what about hormone therapy? So Lia Thomas is getting hormone therapy, and the NCAA is testing the testosterone level, and it's within a certain threshold. Therefore, this person is allowed to compete against women. That's all good. That's great. It still does not take into account the fact that this person went through puberty in full physical development as a biological male. And to go back to what I said before, there are going to be inherent genetic biological advantages that this person has against biological women, that no matter what hormone therapy this person undergoes, no matter how low they can get their T levels for an NCAA test, and then they might spike right back up after the test. I'm just saying, no matter how low those things go, for right now, it doesn't change the fact that they are developed as a man. Okay. I want to share my screen here real quick. Let's pull this up. So this is Lia Thomas at the national championships, and I believe we're in Atlanta recently. And this photo, of course, that I have blown up here on the right of the screen, this photo went viral, right? You look at the number 2 and the number 3 finishers, and then the national champion. And the thing is, too, the New York Times posted this photo, and we found out now that they actually airbrushed it to soften Lia Thomas's features and make this person look more female. If you look at the unedited photo, you see that the bone structure and everything in the face is much more apparent. But the New York Times airbrushed it. So the mainstream media is going to great lengths to try to paint this as a fair competition. And I should also mention, for this video, I tried to search for this photo. I searched for minutes and minutes, and it was very, very difficult to find this photo in high resolution where I could blow it up. In fact, I can't even blow this one up. When I click on the article, it won't let me blow it up. So the media has gone to great lengths to airbrush this photo and to make it very, very difficult to find the unedited, high-resolution version where you can blow it up and really, really study it. But anyway, I look at this photo, you guys look at this photo, and there are certain things that pop out immediately. And even though Lia Thomas is wearing a jacket to cover their shoulders and arms and things like that, there are still some things that stand out and are very, very obvious. So this is where we get to the two ways most people look at things, okay? And if you strip away all the political nonsense and all the societal stuff, okay, you kind of get you get to two basic ways of looking at things. And there are people that I call realists, and they look at things in a very objective, critical, just bare bones kind of way. Okay, they just look at it matter of fact. That's the phrase I'm looking for. A very matter of fact kind of way. They're realists. And then there are idealists. There are people who look at something and their emotions are involved, and they think in an ideological way, an idealistic way, I should say, where they think, well, this is how it should be, and this is how I'd like this situation to be, and wouldn't it be nice if this is how it really was, instead of looking at it for what it actually truly is. Okay, so when I look at this, and by the way, both ways of looking at things have inherent good in them. Both ways of looking at things can be negative if taken to an extreme. Okay, both ways. But I think a lot of people in the country right now who are not, I need to preface this, who are not bigoted, who have nothing against Lia Thomas as a human being, who don't care how this person chooses to live their life or how this person chooses to identify or what surgeries or treatments they want to do to change their body. People, they're not against that. They just look at this and they see something that doesn't make sense. They see something that it's blatantly obvious that you have a person who has an inherent physical, biological advantage that is unfair against these other two competitors and all the other competitors that they're competing against. That's just the practical, matter-of-fact way of looking at this. It's just trusting your eyes. Just look at this photo and trust your eyes. And I should also mention this. We could look at the national champions, the men's national champions, and the number one person might be taller, bigger, stronger than the number two or number three person. It's not necessarily that Lia Thomas is just taller, bigger, and stronger than these two women. It's why Lia Thomas is taller, bigger, stronger than these two women. Okay, it's not necessarily the what here. It's the how. It's the why that got us here. That's what sticks out. That's what's different. So there are people out there that would try to say, well, Michael Phelps, he has longer arms than most of the people he's competing against, and he has a long torso and stuff. That's an unfair advantage. It's not unfair. He's competing against other biological men. So comparing Michael Phelps and how he's built and everything to this situation is intellectually dishonest and immature. It reveals an agenda people have, okay? But going back to the two worldviews here, okay, the matter-of-fact way of looking at this photo and just the situation, I should say. Not, I don't want to, spend too much time just on a specific photo. I just mean the whole situation. There's the matter-of-fact, practical, real-world way of looking at this, and then there's the idealistic view where people say, "Well, who am I to deny this person their dream?" And this person views themselves as a woman, and it's their dream to compete against other women. They don't want to compete against other men. And I think it's wonderful that finally we have a trans athlete that's number one in the nation and is, inspiring other trans people. Right. And that's the road that they go down. That's great. And I understand that viewpoint. I do. Okay. I'm a human being with emotions, and I want nothing but the best in life for Lia Thomas. And anybody that would harass this person, bully this person, call for violence against this person, or say that this person deserves unequal treatment, lesser treatment and protection under the law, that person's a piece of shit, okay? Lia Thomas deserves equal protection under the law as you or I, and deserves to be treated with nothing but dignity and respect, just like you or I. However, you have a situation here where the idealistic view and the political agenda and people's heels being so dug in on this issue politically, it's trashing this sport. It's making a mockery of the NCAA right now, and it's ruining the dreams of all these other women. So Lia Thomas's dream is being recognized, and that's awesome. But what about these 15 other women? Because there were 16 women in this particular competition. What about these 15 other women? What about that 16th ranked woman who got booted out of this competition by Lia Thomas? Okay, there are 16 women right there whose dreams were altered. Some of their dreams were outright ruined by one person. And this is being co-signed and promoted by grifters in the media, academia, the axis, what I call the axis of powers: academia, media, Hollywood, big tech. Okay, these are the people that disproportionately influence and really, truthfully, run our society. You can say it's the big corporations, yeah. Those four pieces are really who runs and controls and influences our society. And there are grifters there that profiteer to the tune of millions, pushing this stuff and trying to find ways to justify it and make it okay. I don't have children, but I will one day. And if I have a daughter who busts her butt to get to a certain point in athletics, and is her dreams are shattered, or maybe she doesn't get on a spot, or maybe she doesn't get a scholarship at a school that she earned, maybe she doesn't get a spot in a competition that she earned, maybe she doesn't get a sponsorship in a particular sport that she competes in that she's earned because of a Lia Thomas, I'm going to be pissed. That's just not right. Okay. If we were to take this situation and change out certain words, and compare, make this, throw in race, throw in ethnicity, throw in national origin, throw in religion, people would be responding very, very differently. Okay. I just don't see how people co-sign on stuff like this. The mental gymnastics people are doing right now to justify what's going on, it baffles me. Now, I wanted to share this picture because I wanted to make it very, very clear. So this is Rachel Levine, who is currently serving, I think, is the health secretary of the United States, the Secretary for Health, the Assistant Secretary for Health under President Biden. I don't mind this person being in this role because there's no distinct unfair biological advantage. However they identify or choose to live is not affecting the way they do this particular job. So in this particular instance, I have absolutely no issue with this person serving in this role. Now, I will openly admit, as a matter of fact, real world looking, person, that obviously Rachel Levine was nominated 100% for political reasons. That's what this current administration's doing, right? Even right now with the Supreme Court nominee that they're trying to push through. So this was done 100% with a political agenda in mind. It wasn't necessarily that this person was the most qualified or the best person for the role. All that being said, so I will acknowledge the reality there. That's the realist in me talking, but the idealist in me talking says, I don't really care that this person serves in this role. It doesn't matter if it's a biological male or a biological female serving in this role, because there's no distinct advantage or danger in it, right? So to me, there are people out there trying to compare the Rachel Levine situation to the Lia Thomas situation. And again, I would say that those comparisons are intellectually dishonest because this isn't sport. Okay. There's no advantage or disadvantage. However, this woman or this person chooses to identify as a man or a woman. So different situation, completely different. All right. Just wanted to put that out there too, in full disclosure. And I want to make sure I hit on every point here. I want to make sure that I'm being very, very careful because this is sensitive subject matter. But guys, like, we have to be able to look at things in an objective, logical, reasonable way and acknowledge the reality of certain situations. I talked earlier about exceptions and rules. There are exceptions to every rule. The first rule is that there are exceptions to every rule in life, okay? Most men are stronger, but there are some women who are stronger than some men, right? I get all that. But if you take the best male athletes in the world and the best female athletes in the world, and you match them up against each other, the men will always win. That's just biology. It's just how it is. Serena Williams, let me ask you guys a question. Is Serena Williams the best tennis player on earth? No, she's not. She might be the best female tennis player on earth. She might be the best female tennis player ever. She would not be in the top 10 if she competed against men. She just wouldn't. It's not me trying to diminish Serena Williams' accomplishments. It's not me trying to put her down. What she's accomplished is extraordinary. And she has really paved the way for a lot of future female tennis players and male tennis players, right? Because she's so great. And what she's been able to accomplish outside of tennis, as a celebrity, as a marketing machine and all that is extraordinary. And she's her own brand. So it's pretty awesome. But reality still is there. And so I mention that because this Lia Thomas situation has kind of shed light on what I just said, that the best male athletes in the world are always going to beat the best female athletes in the world. There are exceptions to every rule, but generally speaking, that is the case. And I think that's another reason why the media machine, the axis of powers, as I called it earlier, really doesn't want to touch this subject. It really doesn't want to dive into this, deeply dive into it, because it exposes some of those realities that go against the narrative that you see pushed on the ESPNs and the mainstream media and all that kind of stuff, and especially in academia. But what I just can't wrap my head around is how you can be a Title IX advocate. And Title IX wasn't necessarily about athletics when it was passed, okay? But it obviously correlates in a big, big way to athletics. So how can you be a Title IX advocate? And how can you call yourself a feminist and be cool with a man? Because that's what Lia Thomas is. Biologically, Lia Thomas is a man. And I don't believe Lia Thomas has even fully transitioned yet and gotten all the surgeries and all that. I believe Lia is undergoing hormone therapy and such. But how can you co-sign and even promote and cheer for a biological male kicking the shit out of biological women in women's sports, especially at the collegiate amateur level? We're not even talking pros here. There's such a slippery slope. It's a very dangerous one. And listen, here's what I find interesting about all this. I talked before about the realist and the idealist way of looking at things. And I talked about the fact that both could be good, both could be bad if taken to the extreme. It was only a few years ago where we had a lot of women's marches in the country, right? Now, at that time, I lived in Los Angeles. And there were literally women, grown women, wearing vagina hats and vagina costumes, marching down Wilshire Boulevard. And I lived a few blocks south, but I remember seeing that and seeing women wearing vagina hats. And I've never quite understood the mentality of a person that goes to a political protest or rally. I've never been that dug in on any political issue, any political agenda, to the point where I'm going to go march at a protest or a rally, where I'm like, I'm going to take the day off of work. I'm going to call in sick I'm going to take the train downtown or whatever because I don't want my car getting looted. And I'm going to go march and I'm going to hold a sign and walk in a circle chanting something over and over for 6 hours. That sounds awesome. I've just never been that dug in on any political subject. But there are people who do this. But the same people who were wearing vagina hats, marching down Wilshire Boulevard just a couple years ago, saying, I'm a nasty woman, and all this kind of stuff. Those same women are cheering for a man beating women in women's sports. There's such great dissonance between those two things, those two situations. I can't understand how we're co-signing on this, how an entire industry is just saying this is cool, and how any logical, reasonable, objective criticism of this situation, which is what I hope I'm providing here. I'm trying to be sensitive, and that's why, I apologize because I'm kind of rambling because I'm really trying to choose my words carefully here. But any logical criticism of this situation is automatically seen as, well, you're just a transphobe and you just want Lia Thomas to be burned at the stake. And, no, I clearly stated that this person deserves all the rights and protection and respect and dignity and love and compassion and understanding as every other human being, okay? And that they have the right to live however they want to live. I think it's awesome that we live in a society where you can choose how you want to live, okay? And just to bring this back to boxing, Muhammad Ali was born Cassius Clay. And for political reasons, he decided to change his name, right? And religious reasons to Muhammad Ali. And his children inherited that name. His grandchildren inherited that name. And if Ali were still with us today and I were to speak to him directly, by the way, I've spoken to his daughter and his grandson. I didn't address them as, hello, Mrs. Clay. Hello, Mr. Clay. No, it was, hello, Mrs. Ali. Hello, Mr. Ali. That's how I addressed them, because that's the name that he took. And therefore, the rest of his family inherited that name, right? His descendants inherited that name. I think that's awesome that we live in a society where we have those sorts of freedoms and protections. So I fully support people making the decisions they want to make about their health, their body, their lives. I get that. That is not related to my criticism of what's going on in the NCAA right now. And sorry I keep using the term slippery slope. I know I've probably said it 8 times in this video, but it is. This is really dangerous, guys. How much further do these guys push? And then when I say these guys, I'm talking about the access in the media, academia, Hollywood, big tech. How much more do they have to push before we see a male heavyweight boxer go through puberty and development as a male and try to decide that they want to transition and then try to compete against women? And maybe most commissions will say no way, but maybe the California Commission, which is big and powerful, it's the busiest commission of all the commissions in the United States, but maybe California or maybe Oregon or something like that says, you know what, we're going to allow this because, trans rights, right? And they say that for the political purpose of justifying all this. And we see somebody get hurt. I don't know. We're not that far away from that happening. Or you know what? Maybe it happens at the collegiate level. Maybe it happens in the amateurs. Maybe AIBA says, yeah, we're going to allow this. And there's an Olympic boxer, a man competing against women in the Olympics. We're not that far from it. If we're allowing the national champion right now in women's swimming in this one particular category is a man. So I'm just 100% against this. It has nothing to do with bigotry or hate or any of that. It just has to do with science and biology. And I don't need to be a biologist to understand the differences. I just need to be not stupid to understand the differences. The notion that, to go back to the Supreme Court nominee right now, going through the process, throwing that out. The person that is being nominated for the Supreme Court right now is going through the hearings and all that, and was asked, can you identify a woman? And she said, I can't. I'm not a biologist. That's intellectually dishonest. That's cowardly. That's really dangerous. I mean, insanely dangerous. And it's that sort of thing that is leading us to a really dangerous place. And it's kind of sad that it's gone that far, where we're not allowed to publicly state that there are differences between men and women. That's not to say that there's not a small group of people, a fraction of a percent, okay, it's less than 1%, of people who some of the brain chemistry, the wiring doesn't quite match the physical development, and they don't 100% feel male or female, or when they look in the mirror, they don't feel or identify with the gender that they were born as. Those people exist. They deserve rights. Again, they deserve compassion, equal treatment, and protection under the law, and love and understanding. It's got to be a difficult situation. I empathize and sympathize with those individuals, but we got to have limits. Guys, in boxing, we have weight classes. I'm a heavyweight, barely. I'm actually a bridgerweight, okay? For those of you watching this who are diehard boxing fans, you know what I'm talking about. For some of you casual sports fans, you may not know what a bridgerweight is. That's somebody who's just above heavyweight. I'll just leave it at that. If I said I identified as a lightweight and I wanted to compete in the lightweight division against lightweight boxers who weigh 135 pounds, I weigh about 215, okay? You guys would say I'm insane. And you would say that it's crazy that any commission would allow that, or any promoter would put on a show allowing a 215-pound man to fight a 135-pound man. You guys would say that that is not cool. Well, I understand it's not an apples to apples comparison here, but it's kind of in the same space. If I say I identify as a lightweight and I want to fight lightweights, I should be told, hey, you identify as a lightweight, good for you, bro. We support you. I'll call you a lightweight. I will refer to you as a lightweight, but I'm not letting you box against these lightweight fighters over here. Not allowing that, because, you know, I don't want you to kill somebody. That's just how I see this issue, guys. So anyway, happy Friday. Hopefully this wasn't too heavy. I really felt compelled to talk about this because, again, I see some dangers down the road. And I live in the sports world. I work in the boxing industry, and I could see that, you know, this correlates to my world, and I could see some things coming down the pike that are very, very scary. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. Am I completely missing something? Am I leaving something out? Am I completely off base here? Let's keep it respectable in the comments. Let's keep it friendly. Let's keep it adult, okay? And not get crazy childish and obscene in the comment section, okay? Let's keep it respectful, guys. But let's have a dialogue about this. And maybe we'll talk more about this in the future. Maybe we'll have an ongoing conversation here, because obviously this subject, this topic, isn't going anywhere. So I do want to get your thoughts on this. Let me know what you think. Peace.